Welcome to the Black AF1 pod. I'm your host, Roy, and my ever loquacious co-host.
Ever miserable, more like this week. Hi, everybody. It's me, Reina, once again. And Lord, am I trying to smile for you guys because right before we started recording, I had the biggest frown on my face. Suffice to say, it's not been a good week for me, regardless. Outside of F1, it's been a miserable week, and F1 has just kind of, I kind of tweeted on my private, it's the icing and a very ugly cake. It's that cake that it's already hideous. The layers have all collapsed. It did not rise properly, but you're still gonna pretty it up by putting ice in. It's the cartoon cake. That's literally my week. It has been awful. At least MotoGP went well. My guy won. The day actually started so well as well. My guy won in MotoGP. My girl won in tennis. My guy won in F2. And I was like, okay, maybe the omens are in my favor.
Yeah.
Deceiving myself. In the week that was F1, just really briefly, because we have so much to discuss today, obviously. But in the week, for a very boring race, we have a lot to say. Well, I have a lot to say. Anyways, quickly in the week that was F1, Toto did come out and say, I guess we should have seen it coming. Because for Toto to come out and be yeah, there's a 20% chance of winning the championship. That had people really demoralized. But now I'm looking back and I'm
race?
No, championship.
Oh,
the season. Exactly. And that has me looking back and saying, Toto was being optimistic. Because with the shit show we put in today, not even today, the whole weekend.
Yeah.
And
we'll get into that too, because I have very many thoughts.
Same. Don't worry. Together we have very many thoughts. And also for anybody who missed this, which I know maybe some people did because they have a life outside of F1, Mika Hakkinen. Well, we were too quick to praise this man last week because he was running his mouth this week talking about how, Lewis must be so frustrated and already wanting to lead the team, and basically created an entire mental dialogue of what Lewis must be saying behind the scenes, which I feel is very on brand for these people this week, because over the weekend, all the commentators and everybody had something to I can only imagine what Lewis is saying. How can you imagine it? Are you there? Just all sorts of frustrating. Anyways, Ray.
No, I mean, now that you mentioned it, I did see that article. I actually read it, and some bits at the very end kind of brought it together, so it didn't seem so out of pocket. Yeah, but the initial statements were still just as bad. It's just the ending made it a little bit better. It was a cherry on top. So I don't know, it wasn't necessary for him to say that, but I feel because in general, he's been mostly of high praise to Lewis, I won't hold it against him. I'll just try and forget that whole article and interview. But no, yeah. So obviously there's so much to talk about this weekend. And before we get into the main race, since it's obviously one of the very few sprint races we'll be having this year, I wanted to get your thoughts real quick on how you feel about the sprint races. And obviously, as you mentioned to me yesterday, your very positive and delightful takes on Luke Smith saying that was the best sprint race.
Oh, Lord, I forgot about that. So much happened today. I forgot about that. So Luke Smith, who is an F1 commentator, whatever, he's an F1 journalist, I think, Autosport, maybe I want to say, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
He tweeted yesterday that this was the best sprint race ever. And Martin Brundle tweeted how he would take 20 sprint races like this over one free practice session, or 10 free practice sessions or something stupid like that. But I just want to say the agenda is so clear. The hatred for Lewis and any sort of success he has is so clear, because we know Brazil was by far the best sprint race. We can all unanimously agree. Everybody can unanimously agree, not just me, not just Lewis fans, not just Mercedes fans. Lewis full on overtook 15 cars from P20 to P15 in 24 laps.
Yeah.
That is not a joke. That is not a joke. So like, oh Lord, these people frustrate me. Like every single thing that happens just makes it so clear how Lewis is such a good person, because I could not. Everybody around you is literally rooting for your downfall.
For me, like, I agree. I do think Brazil was a better sprint race. I feel, and I think, like sometimes I even forget Brazil was a sprint race. I just look at that weekend as just like two full-on races where it's just like Lewis showcasing just how good he was. So when they were saying it was the best sprint race, I was like, what other sprint race has there been? And I always forget about the Brazil, not because like it wasn't
It just
good.
felt like one huge race.
It just felt like just one monumental.
It didn't feel like a sprint race even,
exactly,
because it was interesting.
Yeah, and so if I'm trying to be fair, if I'm trying to walk that midline, I agree with you. Like, there is very often a concerted effort to either diminish Lewis or try and praise him now that he's so much in the dumps, which I knew was going to happen, as we'll get into later when we're talking about the main race. But in terms of like cool factor, 100% Brazil was better. But like, if you're trying to like look up and down the grid in terms of like, was there moves by multiple other drivers, I would say there was more action, but I feel like it's not necessarily because it's a sprint race. I feel like there was more action just because the cars can follow closer. So my honest opinion, I don't think the sprint race, I think all sprint races this year will be better just because the cars can be closer. And if the cars are closer, they're going to be having more kind of slipstream kind of races closer together. And so it's just going to be more exciting in general. Brazil still hands down, bar none, is the best. But to try and like be okay, because I like Crofty. So I feel like they were only looking at it in terms of the other guys.
I was just gonna say, like, even in Brazil, there were moves. Like, it's not like there weren't moves. Like, Brazil had moves in other places. Lewis just kind of, because I know for a bit we weren't even seeing the overtakes Lewis was making, because they were showing them as replays because stuff was happening elsewhere.
Yeah, Tsunoda had some good passes as well until he messed up.
Like even like Max had to do a couple overtakes because he had like binned it like at the beginning, so he had to overtake like one person, I think, or two people to get back to second place.
Bottas had a great start.
Bottas had a great start, and like just a little bit of control, and like the soft tire runners kind of fell off, except Bottas, and the medium cars. Like there was a lot happening in that race, but I feel like because of Lewis, we only remember us Lewis fans. We only remember Lewis.
Exactly, but I mean, ultimately, like I said, I don't take a lot of what they say in terms of their race reviews and their rankings to heart, because it always feels like there's an agenda. But yeah, I think in general, we can all agree Brazil is better because it is.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not like I'm taking it seriously.
Yeah.
It's just, this is one of those ones where you're like, like, are you on drugs? Are you dreaming? Like, what's going, and like, it's a bit shocking. You're like, like, where did this come from?
Right.
You start to think, you're like,
And in the context still of the sprint race, I made a horrible pun of gear sync or choke sync about Max because of how abysmally terrible. I know it's terrible.
Did you see so Roy wrote in the notes of our shared notes that we always talk about, in brackets, how like, we're gonna talk about gear sync versus choke sync. And like in bracket, he wrote, this joke is not as bad as the way you read it just now. And I wrote in bracket back to him, I was like, it is as bad. Like, don't this joke is bad.
But no, seriously,
not a funny joke.
all year Max has had really bad starts. And just to quickly touch on the main,
he's blaming his car, and I don't believe it.
Yeah, every time.
Because today he had a good start. So what's the difference between the car yesterday and today?
But here's the thing. When you actually look at his start today, I don't think his start was necessarily good. I just think the Ferrari starts were both terrible, because Charles and Sainz starts were the exact same, just awful. It's just Lando is probably the only person who had an excellent start, because Lando made big gains.
So I was literally pointing over, because so I wasn't even I didn't know about today because I was watching Lewis's onboard on my laptop for most of the race. So I wasn't paying attention to the TV. But yesterday, I know that it's not that Max had a really good start. Leclerc had a really bad start. Because when they showed the 0 to 200 kilometers thing, it was like 4.8 or something. And I was like, that's not a good start. Like, because usually we see like 3 point something with Lewis when he has a good start and they show. I'm like,
genuinely, Max didn't have a great start today. It was Max's start today was very average. Charles just had a horrible start, and so did Sainz. Because I don't think too many people focus on Sainz start because obviously he got shunted by Ricardo,
and he wasn't even where he was supposed to be. So.
Exactly, but like both of them, their starts are very similar. Like they didn't get a lot of wheel spin. They just didn't get enough revs. So they just had a really slow rolling start, and Max just had a slightly better. I think Perez and Lando are the only people who had good starts in terms of the front group. I guess George too, but couldn't really notice. So yeah, honestly, Max's starts this year have been terrible, and he keeps blaming gear sync, but Perez isn't having the same issues. So like,
because yesterday was definitely like. Horrible. Leclerc had the better start yesterday, but Leclerc's start wasn't even that good.
No.
So I think you're talking about a similar situation today where like it was vice versa, where like Leclerc had such a bad start that Max's start looked good. Well, yesterday was Max had such a bad start, Leclerc's start looked good.
So I don't know, but Max this year, like he's just not on it. I feel his race pace, I mean, we've all known Max is fast, so his race pace has been there, but we'll get back to that. And kind of the last thing I want to get into before we really, really dive into this race is, and I noticed this the past few races, but especially this weekend from the qualifying sessions, the practice sessions, and they keep talking to Christian Horner. It's like he's signed on to like Sky and F1. They keep radioing him in and check, because I watched the international stream because I'm not a huge fan of things.
Will Buxton's
he's not it. He just doesn't know. He brings the energy.
He doesn't know how to commentate.
He brings the energy, but like what he's saying is just too inaccurate sometimes. So I watch the international one where it's PDR and Crofty or Ted Kravitz sometimes, but they just every moment there's a downtime, there's a red card, the red flag or the yellow. Horner, what do you have to say about this? Horner, what do you have to say about Lewis? Horner. Okay, and it's just like, I don't want to hear Red Bull so much.
So like 2 or 3 seasons ago, they used to really rotate this. So it would be like, so each team principal was that once in every 5, like Toto didn't do it, but like Horner used to do it. Andreas Seidel did it. Gunther did it. Omar did it.
Even
like
last
4
year
or 5 of them used to do it rotate. But honestly, even last year, I noticed, I was like, I said this in a space like on Friday after practice, after quality, I was like, how much time does this man have? Shouldn't he be leading his team? Like, how do you have so much time, like, to do this regularly?
It just feels like they signed a deal with Red Bull.
It does.
Like for marketing, it just feels like they signed a marketing deal because they know all the controversy, so they just want to keep talking to Horner over because it is every time. I don't think I heard any other team principal or anybody from any other team this race or even sprint qualifying actually talk to the F1 commentators. Or
no. The thing is, usually, like in the actual race, they do 1 team principal per race weekend. But this is only the 4th race weekend, and like Horner's done it like 3rd time, I think. Like he's like, is it every race weekend? Like you want to be? There's just so much PR, and like I don't even think I'm about to say this, but like all the people are so. I just feel like everybody is on like their side, like is on like rooting for them. Like Paul di Resta annoyed me so much. I tweeted about him on our podcast account, and I was getting cooked by Max fans, and I was just like, sorry. You are not even in the battle with us. Please leave us alone. Like, I didn't even argue with anybody. You would have been so proud of me. I did not reply to a single
growth. Hashtag
Max.
Growth.
I don't want to disappoint. Rory's going to be so upset if I do this on the podcast account. So I just want to fool with other people on my main page as I'm doing currently as we're recording.
So I mean, because I mean, I'll give you that. I've never noticed too much how many, if it's a specific principle for a weekend, but I have noticed in the past that like if a big issue happens with another team, they will try and get in contact with those other teams, right? When Sainz went off, did they talk to anyone from Ferrari about what happened there, or they just kept moving? Right? I can't remember.
What I have noticed is like in the past, if something happened mid-race, not the team principals, but like usually the like person who would happen to would go to the media pen if it happened early, and they would get interviewed like pretty early in the race, and we would see their thing. But I haven't noticed that this season, because Science has done that like a couple of 2 races in a row now that he's been out early, and we didn't like hear, like usually you would hear from him, usually not the team, but the driver himself would get interviewed before the end of the race, and they would like play, oh, here's Carlos Sainz now with Rachel, and they would do like a little mini screen in the side. But I haven't seen that lately. Maybe it's because we're watching on F1 TV.
Maybe. Anywho, my personal opinion, the FIA is still useless, because where was DRS? Like they could have, I mean, even the commentators were saying from like around lap 12, 15 and on, like we could have had DRS, and it took them, I think they didn't get until like the mid 30s in terms of lap counters that we finally got it. And it's like, when they were still on their inters, you would see the drivers very clearly get off the race line to drive through water to cool their tires. So if they're going out of their way to drive through water, that means there's ample dry patches. I don't understand why there was no DRS. Like it, because if you notice at the start of the race,
the stewards were being, my race director was being,
because if you notice at the start of the race when there's a lot more water on the track, if the driver behind was within 0.6, but preferably 0.5, once they got to that final stretch, they were 100% going to pass, because the water was slowing them, the front car enough that slipstream was acting like a DRS. And you saw it from multiple cars, right? As long as you were behind the car in front of you by 0.5, 0.6, once you got to that final stretch, slipstream was enough on those inters with that wet track to get around them. The moment the track started drying up, 0.5, 0.6 wasn't enough. 0.5 even wasn't enough, because Lewis got behind Gasly early enough when he still didn't have DRS, but the track was clearing up enough, and it happened.
Oh, you mean when they switch? You mean when they switched to dry tire? Yeah, no. So like,
but even before they switched to dry tires, when they were still on.
Oh, that wasn't Gasly. That was Stroll. Okay,
yeah,
that's
Stroll,
why I got confused.
But yeah, sorry. But even with others, even with several other drivers, even when they were still on inters,
no, they should have definitely been. Yeah. But I feel like it was like, it's more difficult because if your inters are wearing out and you switch to the wet side to overtake, you can easily spin, which is why I think like Lewis wasn't able to overtake Stroll. When it came to Gasly, on the other hand, it was definitely because there's the dry line and you don't want to put your dry tires outside the racing line. So you can only do it in one little particular place. And then when he did get DRS, Gasly also had DRS. So
no, I agree with that. That's 100%. But before.
Oh, but like, DRS should have definitely come like
and even so, Lewis started very aggressively just taking the wet line going into the turn one, just because he understood he wasn't going to be able to pass, right? And because the earlier in this, you're right, it was on Stroll. But before that point, when the track was starting to dry off, Lewis would still kind of drive behind on the dry line, trying to overtake. And that window of 0.5, 0.6 gap was no longer enough to pass, which the track was just drying up enough and the slipstream wasn't strong enough.
Honestly, I'm not even going to say, I think even before that, the 0.5, 0.6 for our car was never enough.
But but George was able to do it.
George got the one, and K-Mag's tires were pretty much going when he got it. And Lewis didn't get a single, because it wasn't early, it was later on. Because all of George's overtakes were literally the start when the road kind of opened up. And then he only got the one on K-Mag. Like,
where did George end up
before the pit stops?
Do you remember? Was it sixth?
He was at sixth, yeah. So he only got the one on K-Mag.
Okay.
Like, it wasn't like there were extra ones. And Lewis only got the one on Alonso because Alonso's car was dying. And that was pretty much it. So I don't think our car was ever in a position to overtake anybody. I don't think it was like, maybe, like, I don't think so. Like, because usually if Lewis had DRS on Gasly last year, okay, no, you can't even say last year because the cars weren't able to follow closely. This year, the cars were able to follow closely, which means his tires weren't overheating. But the car is so slow on the straights that he's unable to close up enough to overtake at a track like Imola. Like on another track, maybe, but because of the characteristics of the track, the characteristics of the car, like people think like Lewis and George, for me, I think they drove similar races. Lewis was just in a position where he was stuck behind so many cars.
I thought George had to overtake a few other people. And when George is doing his overtakes, if I remember correctly, so please correct me if I'm wrong on Twitter or wherever, but whenever George was doing his overtakes, a lot of the people he had to pass didn't have anybody in front of them where they were slipstreaming or DRSing off of. So George, so essentially what Lewis was trying to do to Gasly, George didn't have to do, because Gasly always had the slipstream coming from Albon. So he was able to always just stay outside of it. Because I think even Crofty at one point said that Lewis very clearly has way more pace than the guys in front of him. I think he was specifically talking about Gasly and Albon. And
no, definitely. Like, I do think the car was faster. I just don't think it was faster enough to do it in that situation. That's what I mean. The situation he was in, the characteristics of the track. That's why I'm saying I don't think Lewis drove a bad race. That's just all I was getting to. Okay.
No, I think Lewis drove as well as he could.
Because obviously, I think like in the commentary, Nico kept going, oh my God, George in P4, 5 while his teammate is in P14. And I'm not saying George drove a bad race. Like, he got lucky in the start, but he did what he needed to do. He kept it on track. Like, it's not a miraculous performance, but it's not a bad performance either. Now, who had a good performance was Valtteri. I was kind of really hoping Valtteri would overtake George and like give him a little nudge. Yeah. So after the race was gone, hit him on the head. I was so excited for that. It didn't happen.
George's most impressive thing for me today was being able to fend off Valtteri, because Valtteri really did have some pace and he was kind of closing in. Mm-hmm. And that was some real, because I think Valtteri had about 3 laps to overtake, and that was some really good driving on him.
And I feel like, give me any other track than Imola, but Valtteri would have overtaken.
100%. Yeah, and even if Valtteri had a few more laps too, like Valtteri.
And you know the pace in the Mercedes isn't there because George, who we know is like on a stabler setup, like a setup that's like makes the car like a bit more stable and everything, was unable to gain on Lando Norris. Like, there was no like closing of like I'm not, he like didn't obviously, and also he then had an issue in the pit. That's what I was gonna say. And then he then had an additional pit thing. We don't know how big that pit thing was or how small, like how bigly, I said bigly, how badly it affected the car or whatever. But yeah. Anyways, as you guys can tell, we're not doing the usual format today because we're mainly talking about, and I'm saving my Reina time to rant about Mercedes at the end. That's why I haven't got it. That's why I'm like being reasonable currently. Then at the end, I can be unreasonable. Yeah. What next do you have for me, Roy?
No, Valtteri had a great race, by the way, because George got up to P4 and Valtteri got up to P5. And
no, Valtteri's been driving really, honestly, and I'm going to say this, like I'm not a Valtteri hater, like ever. Like, I'll make fun of Valtteri, but like I think it is unfair to compare Valtteri's performances like in the Mercedes. And like I see Valtteri fans on Twitter saying, obviously we told you guys that Valtteri had a different car and y'all thought we were delusional. And like,
as if they didn't change chassis in France, but we're gonna ignore that.
Like, no. I'm gonna ignore last year and be like, in the beginning of the season, Valtteri never had that issue. So like, if for some reason Mercedes like prioritized Lewis and upgrades, once it was clear Valtteri was not in the championship battle, then like I don't blame them as a team. Like, if Lewis was not in the championship battle and his teammate was, and they did that, I wouldn't say much. But I will say, like, I'm not like fan of VB or whatever, but I don't like, he's a decent guy. Like, he's one of like the people I like on the grid, which is not saying much because I don't really like much people. So the list is really short, but he has been driving well. And I don't think this is some like Valtteri 2.0, 4.0. That thing used to annoy me when he was a Mercedes. I don't think it's one of those things. I just think, one, he has a good car under him, and 2, his competition is not the best driver in the world. You can't really, if you're gonna put him against Lewis or anybody against Lewis, they're going to be getting embarrassed.
Yeah, exactly.
And the only reason like George isn't like, and the thing is obviously circumstances have fortuned George, so he's looking like he's doing one. But like, if you look at every situation, it's like there's literally been a reason. Yeah. But like, I'm not saying he has been driving bad or whatever. But yeah. And
while we're kind of still here a little bit on talking about VB and not VB, but Mercedes a little bit, I think we can't make an understatement on how much Alpine releasing Ocon where they did messed up Lewis, because
ruined Lewis's race.
Because if he had been released there, he would have been P11 instead of being relegated down to P14, and then he wouldn't have been stuck
in the DRS straight.
Exactly, and he would have the car in front of him had a big enough gap in front of him, so he would have been able to pass and make.
The thing is, if he had finished ahead of Ocon, then he wouldn't have gotten overtaken by Albon on colder tires and the undercut with Gasly. Like literally everything that happened, and Ocon only got a 5-second penalty.
Yeah,
which is not it. Like I know those are the rules, by the way.
Even PDR was like, yeah, that kind of wasn't fair for one moment.
PDR was not as bad as Nico Rosberg this weekend. Nico Rosberg was worse. He was the worst commentator this week. Like the entire weekend, he was insufferable. I watched a lot of the weekend on mute, honestly. Like every time they said, let's go to Christian Horner, I'll just mute my TV and continue working on my assignment.
Honestly, same. I eventually stopped. I listened a few times because they weren't asking Red Bull specific things, but when they asked them things about Red Bull, I'm like, beauty, because I don't care.
I didn't even listen at all, so I don't even know anything they discussed. You know, okay, so I don't know if you guys know, but like Lewis, Roy predicted Sainz to win this race. I predicted Lewis, so we both failed miserably. But obviously, this happened earlier, and someone in the group chat message going, who had Sainz? And I was like, oh, it was Roy. Thank God I didn't have. I was this close to having him, but I had Lewis, so we both got embarrassed.
Yeah.
Somebody already added us to add Sainz to Fraud Watch. Was it you who did? You messaged me.
That was me.
That was yesterday even. Yes. This got Fraud Watch at the end anyways.
I said firmly, but yeah, we'll get there. Don't worry, guys. But yeah, no. So Ocon. Alpine, because I'm not going to blame Ocon. Like he did what he need to do as a driver. They release you, you fight for your position. It sucks. This just was like what can go wrong will go wrong for Lewis this weekend. I mean, it's felt like that to a certain extent for
every weekend. Since all 3 weekends except Australia, except Bahrain. Sorry,
but I mean, honestly, I was thinking about it. I was like, this almost felt worse than Monaco last year, to a certain extent.
Okay, so I've removed that race from my memory. I don't know why you're reminding me, but this race is, once we're done with this podcast, I'm forgetting this race. I'm like moving on.
Yeah,
I don't want to think about it.
Yeah. Okay, so now I feel like, did you want to get into the big teams? Did you want to discuss some of the smaller teams real quick?
No, big teams, small teams, Mercedes at the end. Mercedes rant at the end. We've already discussed Mercedes performance, but I saw you noted something about Red Bull. What you want to tell us?
Up until this point, I've said several times in most of our pods that I'm not 100% sure which of the two cars is better between the Red Bull and the Ferrari. And you have very firmly stated that the Red Bull is better. And I'm not ready yet to say.
What do you want to say? What do you want to say? Say it. Say it. What do you want to say? If you want to say Reina was right, it's fine.
I'm not yet ready.
Because if Perez is bodying somebody, you know the Red Bull is faster. You, the self-proclaimed Perez hater. If Perez is bodying somebody, you damn well know that Red Bull's faster. And the reason I know all along is Perez has been so unlucky in qualifying because he has been faster than Max, and then something will happen at the end that will cause him not to out-qualify Max. So I've been telling you.
You have. So
gentlemen, Roy, I need you to say it.
No, of course, I was getting there. So
I need you to say it. Okay.
So I will say this: I'm not ready yet to say overall on all tracks, the Red Bull is faster. However, without a doubt, hands down, there is no even close margin this weekend. The Red Bull was leagues, miles beyond the Ferrari. And again, some slight Perez knocking
praise?
Here. No, not praise. I'm knocking him down because
you need to see Roy's face. He was like, "What do you mean praise?" It's definitely not. The thing I have for Albon is what you have for Perez. Like,
because how are you in a car that good? Because again, look, Max could have been doing whatever he wanted to do.
Actually, while we're talking about Perez, let me even fuel your agenda. When they said today that this is Red Bull's first 1-2 since Malaysia 2016, what was Perez doing last year in a rocket ship?
Yeah.
Max won like what, 9 races? And you are telling me in not a single one, not a single one. This even those Austria demon energy races were like Red Bull was like a good 5 seconds a lap faster
than Mexico. Remember Mexico? Mexico, the Red Bull was like this weekend.
Austria. That was like
Austria
cheat code.
Too.
That was cheat code. Those 2 Austria races. He did not by luck accident breathe his way into a P2 while Max was a P1. No. How you know embarrassed? Go back to Mexico, please.
So this weekend, I mean, it proved easily the Red Bull. And Charles again just shows just how good he is, or just how bad Perez is, because for that Red Bull to be that quick and for Perez to barely be able to like keep gaps to Charles, like it makes sense. And also, funny enough, we've been saying it. Eventually, Charles, as good as he is,
his bosom, we trust him. Charlie gonna do what Charlie gonna do.
We said it was coming.
But I knew when I saw the weather forecast for this. Charlie boy. Since he moved to Ferrari, I cannot remember a single time he did not do something stupid in this kind of mixed conditions. In Sauber, like I remember this Japan race where he was like a beast in mixed. But since he moved to Ferrari, I've not one that I can remember memorably. Remember Turkey 2020 when he overcooked it and got Vettel that accidental podium. And now Vettel fans will not let our ears rest that day.
Charles is depressed that day, 2020.
I knew his bozo moment was coming. And how you know, like, let me even tell you, I knew was someone in F2 today, someone did a bozo thing and they came on the radio and they were like, I'm such an idiot. Which is like Charles's favorite thing. Yeah. And I literally quoted going, I tweeted going, such an idiot in quote marks. And I was like, I see this happening in the F1 race, which everybody knows means Charles. Like, it was too good to be true. That man, like he's, you know him. If a track is too difficult, or they say street race, street track, or complicated something, this man likes to drive with lots of runoff, lots of just. Let's talk about how many times he went into the gravel on Friday. Like he's just so lucky that like he even qualified well that day, because he made a lot of mistakes in like the first practice session. Both him and Sainz, they were like in the gravel a lot. The thing is, I think also in the full wet conditions, like deluge of rain, the Ferrari was faster.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, it was really good.
But then the moment it struck like inters or like dries, the
Red Bull was faster in the straights, the low speed, the mid speed. It was just better in general.
Because of the weather, Red Bull was not overheating their tires, so nothing reliability wise happened, and Max didn't eat up his tires or whatever. I hope it's hot in Miami is all I'm saying. So is this what it's going to be though for Max? Because I'm going to enjoy this. It's going to be DNF first position, DNF first position. You know what's coming.
No, exactly. So I was going to say, like, honestly, like as far if I'm putting on, which it's always on, if you guys could see me, I'm swagged out in like team.
Roy swagged out. I'm going to post you on the Twitter page now. He's swagged out.
So putting on my already put on Mercedes hat, right? If we're being hopeful and hoping for
smile.
If we're being hopeful, right, and expecting Mercedes to figure out their stuff, and so that by the end of the season we're in place to either be fighting for the drivers and constructors, or at least just the drivers, Max, or at least not Charles, winning this race was good for us, right? That's the silver lining.
Of course, that's the first thing I thought.
Exactly. But the other issue is that the Red Bull is the better car. And if it continues to be the better car for too long, any points that Max gains too early is only going to hurt us. So it's not the best of silver linings, but as far as like being Mercedes, expecting our team to do good, this is good for us because the points dispersion is moving around.
If they're going to bring a rocket ship to Barcelona, then this was a good race for us.
Hashtag I'll be there, although I won't be at the race. But
did you not get a ticket?
No, it's too late. I planned out the trip way too late. So I'll be I'll be in Barcelona. So I mean, I might try and see if I can't get close to the track. Maybe I can be like one of the people.
Maybe you can get like a general admission ticket. Those are super cheap.
I even look for those. They're gone.
No,
like
maybe resell if it gets like a week to the race. Usually
I might
resell.
Yeah, I might try and do something like that.
When they can't.
If nothing else, I'm gonna try and fangirl and see if I can't.
Well, if you end up going, I've already told Britt that her job is like to go put slow punctures in all the tires of all the other teams. She can split it with Cleo, so she can do Ferrari. Cleo can do Red Bull. Maybe you do McLaren. Like, hey, if you make it, like I've secured the job.
I'm not gonna worry about McLaren. We just need to find Ferrari
today
and Red
when
Bull.
They said McLaren was our competition in the championship. Today, I was like,
we
don't even look like McLaren's our competition. They look way ahead of us. Also, when the Lord answered my prayers, Danny, Rick, and Alonso, that was pleasing. That was pleasing.
Yeah. So let's spend a little bit of time talking about the guys who kind of filtered in. So we talked about VB a little bit. Joe did a good race as well. Like if we're just gonna
especially for someone who like he started like obviously he crashed in quali, which is his first like big mistake since he came, which is fine. Like learning curve. Imola is a very difficult track for like a newbie. So like it's fine. Like I don't want to criticize him too much just for his first mistake. So
and again, like he's a rookie. Like he's not
solid. Like
he did a good job.
Where did he end up? Like I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to those people. Like there were a few people behind Lewis, but I didn't know what order they were in. Also, like I did not notice Latifi the entire race. Like the entire race. I don't know what he did, who he did it with, what was happening, but I did notice him, and I am happy for that.
Joe. He ended up 15th. So I mean, it wasn't the best of races, but he 15th? Recovered.
So right behind Lewis?
Ocon, because obviously Ocon had his drop
got promoted.
Okay. Yeah. Then from there.
Lewis got promoted to 13th?
Yeah, because of the 5-second penalty. Yeah. I know Yuki got 7th behind Charles because obviously Charles had
very good performance from Yuki.
But before we talk about Alpha, because I have a rant about Gasly I'm going to get to you, I want to quickly talk about Haas. They looked fan-damn-tastic in the wet. And by they, I mean Kevin Magnussen.
I was going to say, because Mick disappeared off the start and I didn't notice, and then I just never saw him again. Like, I kind of tweeted, I was like, because I was live tweeting on our account, I was like, where did Mick go to? How did he get there? And then I just never noticed him the rest of the race. But K-Mag obviously has always excelled in tricky conditions. But similar to Charles, I'm waiting for his bozo moment because it's coming. He's one of those drivers that will have his bozo moment. Like it's coming. I'm not too fast. It's coming. I know it.
Yeah. So Mick looked great in the wet, but then as soon as the track was drying up, the real pace of that car kind of showed its place. However, Mick versus Kevin Magnussen, K-Mag versus George
Bottas.
No, not Bottas. George.
Also Bottas was really
Bottas. But Bottas got around. But you don't remember the K-Mag versus George fights?
I remember.
He was a terrorist. People like to talk about Alonso and his defense against Lewis. In Hungary last year.
Defense is always really good. K-Mag's defense is always good to the point of like weaving and like he gets penalties. I remember this from his like
it was close to on the line. Like George was getting frustrated. You could just tell George is like it was impressive. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of like overly aggressive defensive or even overly aggressive like passing, but I was impressed at how much he was defending and the amount of respect, but also aggression George brought to it. I think George brought just enough because I think somehow George understood the type of driver K-Mag is, and he's like, all right, I'm only going to do so much here. And the move George did do on K-Mag to pass him eventually was really bold and daring. So that was also another really good move. Let me not forget about that. But yeah, so then from there, I think we can talk about AlphaTauri a little bit. Yuki, P7. Great race by Yuki.
Definitely.
He definitely made his moves passing through the field. So I think Yuki has definitely shown after a lackluster season last year that like he really does have the speed. He just needed a little bit of time to kind of acclimate himself into F1
I've been
and
telling
really kind of getting. No, you have, and you definitely said it at the very first episode that you were putting Yuki to be ahead of Gasly this year, and so far he's being consistent and he's doing the dang thing.
Whose real knowledge is out there? Whose real knowledge is out there? Let's talk about Alpine.
Yeah,
because even obviously Ocon still finished ahead of Alonso.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You haven't? Okay. This is just really brief because obviously shitty race. Ocon did the thing which we've already talked about.
Yeah.
I just want to point out that because Alonso, like I tweeted in our account, I was like, at least if Mick Schumacher is not gonna drive fast, he does what needs to be done by like crashing into our enemies because so like what material is that Alpine made from? Because this is the second time we have seen a huge gaping hole in the side of their car.
Side pod. Yeah, that's true.
I was like, why is it just open?
Alonso pulling into the pit, like, is it that bad? And the team was like, yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's over. So funny. It was so funny.
I was hoping
McLaren era Alonso.
I was hoping we'd get a view of Alonso just looking at the side pod, like, yeah, no, that's really bad. But I figured they moved on. No, but Gasly, okay? I'm very upset with this man. How do you not pass Albon, who does not have DRS or slipstream to anyone?
I'm gonna just hand this over to you and let you have it.
After lap after lap. I don't understand it. Like, all he needed to do, he could do just enough to keep getting closer to him, and then all of a sudden the gap would form up. Like, how can you not? I don't understand. All of the respect that I've had for Gasly fizzled in this race because I don't understand. Sure, your car isn't that great, but like, man doesn't have slipstream. Catch him, do something. And because of that, he completely ruined Lewis's race because Lewis just wasn't able to ever do anything. And for the life of me, I don't understand it. Albon wasn't having a particularly phenomenal race because Albon could barely catch the cars in front of him. If anything, the gap was only slowly forming. But all Gasly could do was just only ever stay between like 0.4 to 0.7 to 0.8 of Gasly, just enough to have slipstream to make sure that Lewis couldn't get there. And then eventually, when they enabled DRS, they enabled it just after Lewis and Gasly had passed the DRS detection zone, so Lewis couldn't get it. And I think at the time, the gap had been like 1.1 thereabouts. And so obviously Gasly probably got a message from his team saying, yo, hurry up, because they got DRS now. And so he did just enough to get within DRS. And from there, we saw what happened. But I don't understand how for 20, 30 odd laps, Gasly just was stuck behind a car without DRS the whole time. And Albon has been racing better, but not that much. And everyone was trying to say that Gasly is the man to replace Lewis at Mercedes, and Gasly is this, and Gasly is that, and he's this great and this great. But like, if you can't even do this here, like, I'm sorry. If you can't even pass a car in front of you who doesn't have DRS, like,
Roy's so disappointed in his guy because y'all know this is Roy's guy. He's so disappointed.
I just don't understand. I don't understand. I was doing everything I could when I was watching this race to just not be livid. I don't understand what Gasly was doing.
I was outright livid. And I was irritated as fuck.
And he's a driver, so I'm not gonna like say he's obligated to let Lewis pass. Like, they all have their own pride, whatever.
No, of course not. But he's like, not a no. I didn't think that for a minute.
Yeah, exactly. But like, bro, be better, do better. At least like blue flag. Yo, somebody put blue flags on Gasly because he's ruining the race. But no, when we get to Fraud Watch, bum of the day, and also Fraud Watch, you guys have an idea of who may or may not be on this list. I
would just like to point out that I did tweet this on our account, by the way. I was like, because a lot of people are coming for Lewis. I was like, let's talk about how Gasly couldn't overtake Albon when there was no DRS.
Gasly. Essentially, genuinely, Gasly ruined Lewis's race. No, it's not Gasly's fault. It started off with Alpine releasing Lewis and not the best. You know what
it started off with? It started off with that boring as fuck sprint race yesterday where we lost a position. Sorry, no, I'm not over that. Like, we literally spent the entire race, a race and a half, getting back to the position we originally qualified in. That is literally what happened this weekend.
Yeah, but beyond that, I don't think anything else honestly happened of note. I guess Seb Vettel did a pretty good race. He's in P8. He's in the points. He did get relegated by Stroll, not Stroll, Yuki. But he did manage to kind of, I think even K-Mag was ahead of him at one point, but he managed to pass K-Mag. So Beto had, as far as Aston is a dog this year. So as far as bad as Aston Martin, and Stroll also landed the points. So Aston Martin had a pretty good weekend, P8 and P10.
Where did Beto finish?
P8. And Stroll is P10. I know.
Okay, can we move on? They finally scored points. Can we move on? Like this
whole race,
on. Like the only thing that went right was like Ricciardo and Alonso in the mud, and Leclerc obviously losing points. Wait, where did Latifi finish? Behind Ricciardo or ahead of?
He's ahead of
okay,
Mick Schumacher.
Because
Ricciardo, yeah. P16 Latifi, P17 Schumacher, P18.
Okay, because Ricciardo pits like 3 times, there should be nobody behind him. He really went for the vibes on vibes.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, but yeah, why did he pit the second time? I was so confused when
they put him on the hards. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I was so confused.
Anyway, I think for the most part, the rest of the race, it was pretty uneventful. Albon had a good race. He was P11. Gasly couldn't pass him. Shame on Gasly. P12, Lewis P13, Ocon P14, obviously because of his team's misjudging. Zhou P15, obviously because he wiped out yesterday. Still ahead of Latifi P16, Mick P17, Ricciardo P18, and then obviously we're 2 DNFs, Alonso and Sainz. So the rest of the people, they just had their races. It was just a lot of DRS trains, a lot of slipstream trains, so nothing else. So I feel like this is a excellent, beautiful time to come to Reina rant time, RR.
Okay, RRT, Reina rant time. Okay. Good evening, listeners of the pod, or morning or night, whenever you're listening to our beautiful podcast. I have a hit list. And on my hit list has one name, one section, and then there are subsections. There are people under that subsection. My hit list is Mercedes AMG Petronas. Where does the Petronas go? I can't even remember. That's how much they've annoyed me. I can't even remember where Petronas, yeah? Formula One team. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula One team. I have an issue with you. Brackley and Brixworth, especially Brackley, since people with our engine are ahead of us, it's definitely an issue with Brackley and not Brixworth. Since people with our engine are ahead of us, we know it's Brackley. We know it's James, what's his name? Allison, Mike Elliott, and whoever the hell you guys are hiring, we know it's y'all. My complaint is a multi-step situation. One, if y'all don't stop using Sir Lewis Hamilton as your guinea pig for your ridiculous experiments, I am finding your home address and I am sending my ancestors. If y'all don't start if y'all continue to use, that man is already underpaid. If y'all continue to use him as your guinea pig, he should be collecting half the salary of that white boy next to him. Because not only is he sacrificing points, not only is he getting embarrassed, not only is he sad. Have you seen how sad he is? Have you seen the music he's listening to on Spotify? But little people on the internet think they can speak on him. There's point one. Point two, y'all spent the whole of last year telling us, aunties, uncles, we are going to be, we can't really develop this car because a new upheaval change is coming, and new rules and regulations. And you don't want to get it wrong because it is to be to your detriment in the long term. We are looking at the long-term plan. That's what you told me. You told me into my very ears, you whispered, and I suffered as that white racist man was running his mouth all year with his white racist employer and his white racist driver. They were winning and smiling their 32 and spraying champagne. And my driver was driving to the limit and getting wins out of thin air. I suffered. I endured. I persevered because you told me long-term gain. I take that to mean we have 3 championships coming, so my guy can get 10 and get the fuck out of here. That is what long-term means. Only for you to be so confident, by the way, in the car you brought, that you brought a decoy car to the first test, only to reveal your car in the second test, and then only have a little time on it. So you can't even have that time to improve it. Then you're like using race weekends as test sessions with my driver as your test meal. That's what you're doing. That's another problem. Problem number 3, y'all said at the beginning of the season, it will take 3 to 4 races, yeah, to get where we want to be. So that's, I'm assuming, where you want to be is championship contending. But in 3 to 4 races, not only have you not even gone higher to get to championship contending, you have steadily fallen down the grid. You have actually gotten worse. You are getting, like, you have gone from position 3 and 4 to position 4 and 10 to position 5 and 6 or whatever it is you did last. I don't even remember what last time was. And now you are just plainly outright finishing outside the point. And for someone that has watched F1 as long as me, by the way, Jeddah was outside the points too, because position 9 and 10, those are no points. Those are no points. That is what you give to all these little teams that don't have any budget so that they can feel good about themselves and while they're in the sports. Position 9 and 10 is not for Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz. Do you know what a Mercedes is? Do you even know the worth of yourself? Do you know what your car is? Do you know the status you stand for? And not to put on top of that, you are having the greatest driver of all time in your car. The greatest driver of all time. And for me to say this, one of the greatest athletes to have walked the surface of this earth, someone I have shared oxygen with, a beautiful man, and you have him driving something that is struggling to make the points. And let me tell you, problem number 4, not only is your car bad in regular conditions, like 20 out of 23 races, when chaos occurs and the weather is not even the same, your car is still bad. That is my palabra. That is my problem. That is what is worrying me. Like, if you have a bad car, the thing is, when like the conditions are different, suddenly something miraculous happens, which is what happened with Aston Martin. But y'all were sitting your behinds and still having a fucking slow car. Is you dumb or what? Is you dumb or what? My final problem. No, sorry. 5th problem. Who is doing your pit stops and what are they eating for lunch? What are they eating for lunch? Are you overfeeding them? Is that why they cannot do the pit stops? Because those people look lazier than me and I be eating a ton. Who is doing your pit stops and you need to get them in the gym and exercising and doing those arms and like speed, reflexes? I don't understand what they don't have, because why are you doing a 4.9 second pit stop? Because that shenanigan and nonsense with Ocon would not have even occurred if you had given a timely pit stop. Do you need Lewis to come out of the car and change the 4 tires himself? Because I'm pretty damn sure that would be faster. And this is not the first time. You know, your mediocrity has been accepted in those areas because you had the car. But that nonsense with Bottas last year was not it either. Like, let's talk about how Bottas always had slow stops last year. That was not funny. That was not funny. Let's just be glad Perez is a bum and we still won that constructors title.
Yeah, seriously.
Because yes, those slow pit stops fucked us up last year in France. That's the reason we didn't win France. I remember. Don't think I've forgotten. My memory is sharp. I remember all your stupidity over the years, the complacency that was able to pass because you were building rocket ships. Well, now you don't have you have a goddamn motherfucking rickshaw is what you have given my driver. Problem number 6. James vowels. James consonants. Whatever the fuck you are doing in that car, whatever the fuck strategy you cook up in that little tiny brain of yours, you need to fix it. You need to get your shit together or you need to be gone. The strategies, like, let's just ignore this race weekend because I've been giving y'all a pass for 3 weeks and I'll be doing Miss Optimism on this podcast while I've been angry in my personal life. Not again. This will be where I will vent all my emotions. The nonsense, that hot tire and vibes that you did in Saudi, I've not forgotten. And I guarantee you, if the race had started under dry conditions today, you would have done something similar. So I'm not even forgiving you. You will be addressed. And our 7 is our number with our 7 championships. By the way, that would be 8 if you didn't fuck up last year, according to point number 2. My 7th and final point. Total goddamn motherfucking wolf. Shut your fucking mouth. If you are not going to build a fast car, don't be running your mouth like Gunther Steiner. Are you on the same level? Be there going for dinners with your colleagues when they've built cars and you built a rickshaw. I don't understand. You own 33% of that team and you're there acting like they're paying you mediocre salary when you're the one handing out the salaries. That is your bloody fucking coming on the radio to say, we built you and we're sorry for the undrivable car. Admitting it, by the way, which is a PR disaster. Like, imagine at any point a team principal saying that the car is undrivable. Like, that's when you know it's a disaster. Total wolf. I need you to stop doing interviews and go and fire who you need to fire, hire who you need to hire, supervise who you need to supervise. When I was in boarding school, in college, I was a house prefect, like I was head of my house. And I was doing a better goddamn fucking job than this because we were winning competitions and you ain't doing jack shit. And Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula 1 team, let me tell you something. If you do not bring upgrades to Spain as you have promised, if those upgrades don't inject 1.5 seconds, the only way this misery, pain, and sorrow will be worth it is if in Silverstone, I see Lewis lapping position 20 to position 4. That is when this pain and sorrow will be up. I don't just need you to catch up to them. Because y'all are saying you have a fast car, but you need to unlock it. And they say they just don't have the key yet. My question is, which of your children swallowed the key? Go and open Jack's stomach and bring out the key and unlock the fucking potential that you see. And potential doesn't mean, by the way, because they said on the sim or whatever, the wind tunnel, they are a second ahead of everybody. When they fix that car, I better see that goddamn motherfucking second. If not, it's me and your daddies. I will curse all your mothers. I promise you, my ancestors are on your back. Anyways, let me stop here as I'm fasting. I've not eaten, I've not drank, and I need to go and do that because it's been like 2 hours since iftar. I have an exam tomorrow and I need to go and study. But let me tell you, I'm watching. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, all of that, there's way too many good points, but especially one thing that's really bothering me is I don't understand why our pit stops are still so bad. Like, the car is the car. Wait, what are we gonna do? Like that, we have to wait. But pit stops, that's been an issue since I started watching, like 2020, because I started in 2020. Like, we've had horrible pit stops since then. Minus that one amazing double stack they had, I think, in 2019. In
China in 2019, and they are using it to step on our neck since then. I'm like, if you cannot replicate it, what's our business? Single stop you cannot do. You are there bragging with your one time by accident double stack.
That was beautiful. But ever since then, it seems like
I forgot.
Yeah,
1 second, my brother Roy. And if I hear data collection from you one more time, World Championship in data collection, that's what y'all are after. I'm like, at what point are these people going to be like, we're focusing on next year? Because if I hear that, I will stab somebody. And it might be myself. Since I don't know where to find them, it might be me. It might be me.
So with that. So with that, I told you guys she is loquacious, did I not? That was I knew where we were going, so that was the reason for that. So with that, normally we would do a star of the day, bum of the day, and fraud watch. But before we do that, no, we will. But I want to hear what are your predictions for? We're not going to do for the race, but for Mercedes this upcoming weekend. Do you think they said that we're going to get our upgrades in 2 weeks? Oh, it's not a race weekend?
No, it's not a race weekend. 2 weeks in Miami and then 2 weeks in Spain. So it's a month before we get those upgrades.
Oh, God, I thought they were going to be coming. Oh my God.
No, it's 2 weeks to Miami and then
they need
2 weeks
honestly
to Spain. Which I'm glad for, because at least there's time. At least they can't just say the race came so quickly.
But they need to just figure it out and get those upgrades now, because if they need to collect more data on the new upgrades, we're in the mud. If those new upgrades aren't it, you understand what I'm saying?
If they don't instantly walk, championship is over. Because I already told you I'm gonna give my thoughts on championship in Spain.
Yeah.
If they don't instantly, what we need now is a double DNF from Red Bull and Ferrari in Miami. I'm not gonna lie, nothing short of that is gonna make me feel good in Miami.
And on top of that, we need to be the two cars behind them. We need to get a 1-2 while they do a double DNF. Is this same car, this same rickshaw that they are this same keke na pep that they are carrying to Miami. Yeah.
I need them to cancel that Miami race, as maybe even what would be better for my brain and my soul, because apparently there were protests. So like
yeah, so we'll see. My opinion is the same.
Okay, my predictions for Miami is everything being equal, like weather, everything.
Back 5 to the usual. 6. Yeah, back to the usual.
5 and 6, yeah.
I agree. So
I don't remember what the track looks like. I just remember it being hideous. So I don't remember the characteristics of the track.
Did you see that?
If I change my mind, I'll tweet it on the account.
Did you see the video of a quick? Okay, it looked. I mean, it was just a street track. It'll be ugly. So back to the regularly scheduled activities. So who is your star of the day?
I don't remember how they finished. I'll have to say Valtteri.
Yeah, I had Valtteri as one of mine. But
so do you want to say the second one instead?
Yeah, exactly. If my alt is Yuki.
George? Yuki? Okay.
Yeah, I'll give it to Yuki. I mean, George did have a good race.
Because
putting your car from P11 to P6 and then eventually P5, that's excellent. But I just feel like I really enjoyed Yuki because he was really fighting. He took it to a lot. He looked like he got into more battles. It wasn't just like a quick instant jump. And I'm also just impressed because he had such a rough season last year that him showing just how good he is has me just genuinely impressed. I'm like, oh,
excited, isn't it?
So yeah,
so I'm excited.
Yeah. Because I definitely haven't been believing in Matt nearly as much as you. And then do you have a bum of the day? We know mine.
Well, I don't want to take yours because that's actually the bum of the day.
No, I mean we can double up.
Is yours?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh no, that's not mine. Mine is Carlos Sainz.
Oh, yeah.
The bum of the entire fucking weekend. But
yes.
My actual bum of the day, of the week, of the sports, Mercedes AMG for Petronas Formula 1 team. But 100%. If you force me to stick to a driver, I'm gonna say Carlos Sainz.
If we're doing a bum of the team,
he is basically a second driver now. Like it's over. He's the second. He should be really lucky that Charles did that fuck up. Because if not, Charles had like won first or second or third. That's it. His chance is over.
Yeah.
And they renewed his actually. Some news that happened this week. They just extended his contract. So Mick Schumacher's career is over. Like there's nowhere like.
But they only gave him a 2-year extension.
Yeah.
And
Mick Schumacher's career is over.
Haas isn't dropping Nick.
What other team do you think is going to take him after?
But Haas isn't going to drop Nick.
No, but there's going to be a better driver that's going to come up in the interim.
Yeah,
this was his time because I thought Ferrari would be stupid enough to risk having a fast car.
Oh, really?
If they have a fast car this year, their car's not going to be slow next year because they're going to be like having the Schumacher name competing for the. They're very stupid like that. Like Ferrari of like 2017, 18 would have definitely done that. Like they would have definitely. They're willing to risk anything for like optics. Or to win in Monza.
For me, I was confident that Mick wasn't going to Ferrari. Like there was no doubt in my mind that he wasn't.
I was not confident. Or I was they would either do that. I'm surprised they gave him a 2-year extension. I would have thought 1 year and then Mick after.
No,
I just think Sainz really impressed him last year. And Sainz wasn't willing. I heard rumors that Sainz wasn't willing to sign a 1-year contract.
Sainz,
and they kind of weighed that up against like Sainz leaving this year.
And who else could they get? And there's no one else.
Mick would have been the person.
But no one, I mean, especially as he's been showing, like he's just not been very impressive. With the vacuum of who was his teammate last year? Russian dude?
Mazepin.
Thank you.
Not Russian dude.
But with the vacuum of Mazepin, like Mick and his failings are being highlighted a little bit more, especially with a teammate like K-Mag, who is just so strong.
As I've been saying since last year.
But I agree. So for me, my bum of the day is Gasly. Okay, I refuse to get over the way this man could not pass Albon. who never had DRS once. I won't
For
get
me,
over
the
it.
only reason I thought like Sainz took it was just because he had a bad Saturday and
Yeah, I
Sunday,
feel
or
you.
Friday and
I
Sunday.
feel you.
He's just had a horrible weekend. Like the whole weekend's been awful.
Only because
I'm fine
today
with yours
wasn't
too.
technically his fault, which is great because we can move into fraud watch. While Carlos Sainz is not my bum of the day, he is 100% being moved over to fraud watch.
So our current fraud watch is Latifi, Stroll, Ricciardo, Vettel, Alonso. So we're leaving. Let's go through who we're leaving. We're leaving in Latifi, Stroll, Ricciardo, Alonso. Maybe take out Vettel.
Yeah, Vettel can come out. Did I say P8 or P7? I think P8. Yeah, P8. P8 is good enough to
but Stroll stays. Yeah, he's not done enough, has he? One more race in the points, and I'll remove him.
Stroll deserved to be in there.
Why was Vettel on fraud watch from last time?
Because he had a really bad race last time.
I don't remember.
I know that was the one you.
Or should we take out Stroll too?
We can be nice.
Yeah, okay.
Because we're bringing in two.
Latifi, Ricciardo, Alonso, Sainz, and Gasly. Is that who you want to put in?
We'll get to it.
Okay. So Latifi, Ricciardo, Alonso, Sainz.
Yes. Okay. Sainz. So for me, Sainz wasn't my bum of the day because I felt like today wasn't necessarily his fault. But
yesterday,
yeah, he keeps having way too many mistakes. And for what?
And honestly, he deserved to be on fraud watch last week, and we were just really nice. 2 weeks ago, we were just really nice.
Yes.
So but for it's what? About time.
Because I texted Reina yesterday when he did whatever he did in
immediately.
I was like, firmly in fraud watch. And to be clear to our listeners, new and current, for us, fraud watch isn't necessarily meaning that like you need to be out of F1. It's just kind of a running tally of who's been like especially bad this year in the races, right? So it's not like you're actually a fraud, although like arguments can be made about people like Latifi. But it's more that like, hey, you have been doing especially bad consistently, so we're just gonna meme you a little bit. So yeah, Sainz firmly in fraud watch. And this is my executive shoo-in is Gasly. I refuse to get over Gasly not being able to pass Albon. It's
executive shoo-in. I'm gonna put that in bracket.
But yeah, so no, 100%. For me, Gasly is in fraud watch for the week. His race was less than stellar. Obviously, Yuki bamboozled him. Yuki being able to pass, like again, Yuki was passing people, right? So Yuki found a pace to pass other cars which were farther along the grid. So clearly they may have had more pace, and Albon wasn't catching anybody in front of him. So Yuki was passing people on pace. Gasly, meanwhile, didn't have pace and also couldn't pass a car that also didn't have pace with slipstream. Fraud watch. And also bum of the day.
Not the fraud watch. Dead, dying, done, gone. Fraud watch.
But yeah.
Also, I'm just telling you now, Cam and Varun have said you need to bring the episode out ASAP. It's not me, it's them. It's them, it's not me. So you need to work double time.
I'll work on making sure it's edited tonight.
Okay, star of the week. What's yours?
Okay, so my star of the week it's a double. Yes, and Reina's gonna laugh because she knows how much I love my sister. But my star of the week is my sister and my cousin, because they're out here doing big girl things, out here making big purchases. I can't say what because I don't want to be out here stunting.
Mine is the same thing, and it's the same reason, but mine is only my sister. But my sister is my star of the week because one, she gave me money. It was $100, but she gave me money. And two, she done bought herself an Hermes slippers. And I'm like, you go spend that money you are earning. I love to see Black women flourish. I ain't gonna lie. So I am supporting you choosing your sister.
Yeah. It's actually crazy similar. I'll tell you after. But yeah, no. So yeah, my sister and my cousin, yeah, they're out here doing big girl purchases, like just out here. Because we went shopping yesterday. When we spoke. And yeah. So, and it was a lot of fun. And I bought some things because I mean we're gonna be obviously in Spain. And I just wanted to get a few fits for that. But yeah, no, so they're out here doing big y'all things.
Be proud of them. And it was dope. Black women succeeding is my love language, okay? That's my love language.
Yeah. So no, thank you guys so much for listening. And I'm gonna let Reina do what she always does.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this week. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all are my therapy because the week's been awful, but just knowing that at the end of the week, I had like a chance to talk to her. Where was like, do you want to record after your exam? I was like, nah, I need to record today. I need this. And like, to the few people who listen, getting a little bit bigger every day, one by one. Thank you so bloody much. Like, we really appreciate you guys. We're not perfect, but we're trying. Bye, darlings.